Hey guys, Lucky Madman here, bringing to you another bit of advice when it comes to summon as well. Have you ever thought, boy, I wish I can get more out of FRR? What am I doing wrong? What can I possibly do more? Um, well, a lot of people have been asking me recently around what my approach is when it comes to FRR. So I thought, hey, let's just drop a guide and throw it up onto YouTube for you guys. Look, this isn't best practice. This is just my process about how I approach FRR. Um, and maybe it'll help, maybe it'll give you another way of approaching FRR, but hopefully this does help a handful of yous out there. If it helps at least one person, that means I've done my job with this video. So how to best plan for FRR. So what is FRR? Free and Rune Removal Day is what FRR stands for. It is a day where you are able to move runes for free, self-explanatory in the name, and it happens on the first Saturday of every month, as long as it's not the first day of the month. So in this instance, we are in February. The next FRR is the 2nd of March. Right now, it's the 28th for me. So I'm a little bit late on this video. I wanted to get this out probably last week, but I've been working on a few other things in the meantime. So what is my best advice for FRR? My best advice would be to make sure you plan it well. All right, planning is key when it comes to FRR. Now, what do I mean by planning? What does that usually involve? Planning usually involves, having a bit of organization, thinking about what your approach is going to be when it comes to FRR. You know what date FRR is. It's kind of the build up, the time leading up to it. So what do you plan on doing? Right? My approach is quite simple. There is only 5 steps. I've put 6 down in this guide. The first step is, what would I do leading up to it? The first step would be to clean up my runes in storage, as well as upgrade the runes. So essentially cleaning up my runes in storage means, hey, if I've just been sitting there, if I've been working on a piece that, for Twitch or if it's for YouTube, I'll be there sitting there casually farming. Just, if I keep a rune, I'll go on to the next run. I don't sit there and upgrade runes. If I'm actively looking at the game, I'll roll runes as I go through. Therefore, knowing if I should keep it or not, just to keep my rune box stable. Right now, I believe I've got around 300 storage runes. I believe I'll have to do a little bit of a cleanup for this FRR, but most of my runes have been already upgraded. So when it comes to upgrading runes, usually you want to upgrade it towards maximum potential. If it's a hero rune, you want to upgrade it to +9. If it's a legend rune, you want to try upgrade it to +12, just to figure out if it's a rune you want to keep. Now, I say +9 or +12. That is the highest points you want to go to with those runes for now. If it doesn't roll the way you wanted it to roll early on, at +3, +6, whatever, then you can sell it. It'll start emptying out your rune box. You're not keeping a clutter of runes. You're not hoarding runes, essentially. You're not sitting on mana that you could be using to upgrade runes. All right? Yeah, so this process leading up to FRR, for me personally, takes anywhere from 20 minutes to an hour, depending on how deep my rune situation is at the moment. I don't spend too much time anymore. I used to spend 3 hours the week leading up to FRR to do a bit of a rune cleanup. Now I don't spend anywhere near as much time because I'm trying to keep on top, trying to be proactive about my rune management. The longer you drag it out, the more runes you have to tidy up in one hit. Think about it that way. Do you really want to sit there and upgrade runes, sell runes for 3 hours, or would you rather just, it takes 10 seconds to do it. You can sell it straight away. You can go and upgrade it to +3. May not roll the way you want it to. If it does, great, go to 6. If it doesn't roll the way you want it to, you can sell. If it rolls the way you want it to, great. Then you go to +9 and so on. So keep that in mind when you go through your rune cleanup. And, it's a good way of keeping on top of your runes, knowing, how many runes you have to play around with in the upcoming FRR. So that's step 1. Step 2 for me is starting to think and design my priority sections of the game. So what does that mean? What does priority sections mean? So priority sections, I've worded it that way, is because the game can be broken down into many categories, right? You got RTA, Guild War, Arena, Dungeons, TOA, Scenario, Labyrinth, blah, 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 so on and so forth, right? For me, the key things that I want to focus on is RTA, Guild War, Arena, and Dungeons, right? So what do I want to talk about there? So when it comes to thinking and designing, so thinking about and designing my comps that I'm going to run in each of those sections. So this step usually takes the longest because it's largely theory crafting. So I started thinking about like where the RTA meta is going. For example, let's talk about RTA specifically first, and then work our way down the list. So I think about the RTA meta first. I think about my monster box, and then trying to think about what rune changes do I really want to make to be able to take it to that next level, and start playing around with some tuning just to go, okay, well, these are the monsters I have in my monster box. What's my core units going to be for this upcoming month of RTA? What's my backup units? What about if they bring this unit that counts as my team? What can I bring? What can I change up slightly to, be that one step ahead? And then build my team up that way. For Guild War, essentially, it's thinking about, a lot for Siege, just thinking about aligning to the Guild War defense, trying to ensure they're on their best runes, trying to think, did I change? How did my current defense go? Is there anything I need to change? Did I gain a new unit that can change my defense up? Is there something that, is there runes that I've gained that I can change my monsters up? I don't know. Something along those lines. Arena, for me personally, I haven't spoken too much about Arena, but it's more or less, did I gain any new monsters that can change my cleaves that I've been running for Arena offense? Or did I gain a new Arena defense monster that, that I should probably consider putting in there as well? Are there any change-ups? Is there something in the meta that's happened that I should be thinking about and going from there? Dungeons is self-explanatory. Just seeing if I can change my dungeon teams at all. For me right now, it's all about that hashtag twin meta. Everything's all twins right now. So, yeah, a lot of the time I spend at the moment is largely thinking about RTA. And then going from there. Guild Wars itself is pretty straightforward, but RTA, where the meta's changing quite often, is one of those aspects that take a while. So that's step 2, making sure you're thinking and prioritizing, thinking of your priority sections of the game. So step 3 is then taking an extract of my account a few days before FRR, and then theory crafting team builds. So, putting what we did, designing and thinking about what we wanted to do with each of those areas, the priority sections of the game. Now what we're doing is we are now using the swap tool to be able to theory craft and building our teams using that tool. So starting to rune and ensuring everything is tuned, using the tool itself to really guide us to see if we've made any improvements in any of the units that we're currently running. If we've changed our RTA team, making sure everything is aligned to work the way it should. There is a section in the optimizer where you can do a speed tuning test to ensure the higher base units, for example, a unit like, let's say Tessarion, or let's say Perna. Perna's not outspeeding my Tessarion. Perna's got a high base speed, right? Ensuring my Perna doesn't outspeed my Tessarion is probably a good example there. Just so, you get the armor break, the Oblivion, and the Perna nuke down on a unit. So, ensuring that you've got everything lined up. You don't want your damage dealers going before your defense breakers. You want to try and line it all up. So, it's just making sure you do all that up front. And yeah, this process itself, is probably another part that can take a while. Step 2 and 3 are probably the longest parts, which is where all the effort is. So keeping that in mind when you go through it as well. So yeah, that's where you have a lot of fun, because you start seeing if you've gained, if you've got any solid rune improvements throughout the month, if there's any priority sections that you should be still farming, what dungeon should you be prioritizing. It'll show you where you're lacking in runes. So yeah, do that up front, plan it, take your time through that process. Step 4 is, once you're happy with the builds, enjoy the time leading up to FRR by farming for runes. You've done all the work you needed to, you've theory crafted your teams, and now it's more or less, hey, you can chill out, enjoy enjoy your time leading up to it. If you get any game-changing runes in that time period, 2 days or whatever it may be, depending on when you plan on doing your FRR on swap, you can either manually change those runes, or you can redo step 3, which is redoing everything in the optimizer. It's depending on how much work you've put in, and if you think that it's going to make a big difference if you take one rune off a unit and put this new rune on, if it is not too much. So it's something you got to consider balancing out as well, definitely. I've had moments where I've done that. I got a few decent runes, surprisingly, just before FRR, after I did all my work. So I actually redid everything once again, and I've rebuilt like 80 units. More or less for me, it's like I can't really leave units without runes, unless I can't rune them the way I want to rune them. So yeah. So step 5, when FRR. So FRR day comes around. You've done all your work. It's all on optimizer. You just make those changes and test the builds, right? So making those changes, all you need to do is read the optimizer, go through each monster, see which runes need to go on, and start ruining your monsters. And just enjoy the fact that your FRR is not a 5-hour process. Enjoy the fact that now it's only 20 minutes on FRR day. And rather than having to build units and ensuring they're tuned, all you need to do is test and tweak as required. And then go from there. And you can enjoy the rest of your weekend. You know, who wants to spend their entire Saturday doing FRR, right? You know, you kind of want to just do it. If it works, you test it and everything's tuned. Be happy, move on with life. What's step 6? Step 6 is profit, boys and girls. You've done all the hard work up front. FRR has been a casual day. You can go and sit back, relax, enjoy time with the family, enjoy time catching up with friends, without having to worry about your FRR anymore. It's pretty straightforward. That's how mine usually goes at the moment. So for Australians, FRR seems to start around Saturday afternoon most days. So it could be anywhere from 4 p.m. or 7 p.m. start, depending on what time of year it is for us. So I usually get my FRR done by 9 p.m. if I do start at the start of the day, as the start of the server day on Saturday. And then it becomes just testing. And if I'm happy with things, I will leave it alone and move on. If I'm not happy, then I'll start tweaking things, and I might spend some time on my Saturday, which is the later part of this. Sorry, my time on Sunday, which is the later part of Saturday server time, to be able to make those final changes as well. So keep that in mind when you're going through, guys. That you know, that you can make changes. It's not the be all and end all when you do your step 3. You can go back to step 3 at any point in time. But what I would recommend is take the time. Think about your step 2 and step 3 really, really well. Okay, because step 3, once you start building your units, you need to consider building other aspects, right? So once you go through each of the categories that are very important to you, you might want to build some other units for other aspects of the game. So when I talk about doing my FRR, it's usually making sure I'm on top of what I'm doing for RTA. And then it's like thinking about what I'm doing for Guild War. And then it's thinking about what my dungeon teams is going to have. So I'll ruin a decent R5 team, and then I'll ruin, I'll try to ruin a Universal Giants, Dragons, and Necro team, and then go from there. So that's essentially what I do. And then it's all about testing. Once you get onto FRR day and you test it and you see, hold on, my my Lucian's dying in Dragons, right? If you run a Lucian in Dragons, that's what the meta is at the moment, running Lucian in Dragons. You got to think about what you're doing, right? It could be that your Lucian's not tanky enough. It could be that maybe you're not dealing enough damage, and the mid boss moves and it kills your Lucian. You may not be doing enough damage on the final boss and it kills your Lucian. You got to just have a look and see what's going on. You might want to sit back and go, okay, well, what about if I just either gem HP % or if I get a different rune on, it might make it work. So it's a process within itself as well. So you just got to really be switched on, thinking about what you need to do, what sort of base stats you're aiming for, and then going from there. Don't be too daunted about FRR. I know a lot of people get scared about FRR. People are scared of change. It is natural to be scared of change, right? But flip the switch. Think of FRR as a very exciting time for you to really change your account, make a big difference moving forward. Yes, sometimes moving forward is taking a step back at times, but it's not the end of the world. Think about how much of an improvement you can make to your account with the hard work you've put in that month's worth of farming, and then going from there. There's a lot of things you can do with FRR. If you are worried and need advice, there are a lot of content creators out there. Hey, you can go to any of them. You can come to me. I stream every day of the week, except for weekends. So feel free to reach out if you ever do need any help. Hopefully this guide has helped you. I don't want to drag this out any further. So I'm just going to go quickly summarize what we spoke about. So my plan of attack for FRR usually means cleaning up my runes up front and upgrading them when I have potential runes. When I'm done with that, then I'll start theory crafting what I want to do with my free rune removal day, when I'm thinking about my monster box and content of the game. So for me, usually it's thinking about RTA, then taking an extract of my account. Essentially, like once you do your rune cleanup, you can take an extract of your account then. And then start building your teams, right? Don't build monsters, build teams, right? Teams is you gotta make sure they all work well together, and then making sure everything's runed and tuned the way you need it to be, within your rune limitations, and then enjoy a bit of time just to kind of sit back and relax before FRR. If anything does click in your head and go, oh, actually, I should have ruined so-and-so like this, you can actually go back and start making some changes as you go forward. Rather than limit yourself to 24 hours, which is an FRR day, you can spend the week leading up to it planning it out. doesn't have to be a full 24 hours, but you know, you can spend as much more. You can spend, you got a whole week's more worth of time to be able to spend on FRR rather than just on that one day. And yeah, make the changes on FRR day. It takes what, 20 minutes or an hour, depending on how many monsters you have, and then go from there. So for me, I've been doing this ever since my monster box got pretty big, and when I started being a bit more competitive in Guild Wars, just making sure everything was tuned. So yeah, I've been doing this for a while, since when I got competitive in Guild Wars, just so it was easier to manage my runes and the units I needed to, making sure everything was tuned, and then going from there. I've been using the swap for a really long time now, and I find it to be a really good tool. So credit goes out to Xandro for making such a great tool for Summon as well. So yeah, guys, that's going to wrap us up. If you guys enjoyed what you saw today, feel free to hit that like button. If you have any questions, put it in the comments below, or feel free to swing by any of my streams on Twitch. There'll be a link in the description. There is a schedule on my Twitch page as well, so if you want to know what times I stream, they're all over there. And if you need any help, feel free to ask away. I'm more than happy to help at any point in time. Most of all, just enjoy the game. Think about your free rune removal day, because it only comes around once a month, and make the most of it. Okay, that's the best advice I can give you. Don't be scared of change. You know, change is great. Change can take your account from Conqueror to Guardian overnight. So just think about it that way. All right, guys, that's going to do us for this episode. Have a great weekend. Enjoy your FRR, and I'll see you at the next episode. See you guys.